So Green Goblin, aka Harry Osborn, finds out all the secrets of this Ultimate Universe, which eventually leads up to this massive showdown at the very end, which was quite the sight to see, and damn was it wild. Welcome back to Keepin' It Comic, guys, and we're covering today issues number 4 through 6 of Ultimate Spider-Man. We covered 1 through 3 in a previous video, and we're going to be covering issue number 7 once that goes live here next week. So after the last issue here, where Harry Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, found out that it was Peter Parker that was under the Spider-Man mask, we pick up on MJ and Peter waiting on Harry at this expensive restaurant before a night out, which wasn't so easy for the Parkers to get in until they mentioned Harry's name at the very front desk. So Harry eventually shows up, and now we're just waiting on his wife. And when she finally shows up, I was shocked. It was freaking Gwen Stacy, and I'm like, what? To be fair though, it is nice to see her alive for a change, so it's nice to kind of have the Ultimate Universe do that for us. But at the same time, my question is, what part here is she playing in the Ultimate Universe? Now, the night proceeds with a lot of back and forth banter and exchange of wits between Harry and MJ. Harry steps out of line with a few different remarks. Gwen makes sure that he remains as polite as possible. Peter Parker, being shy as Peter Parker usually is, but a few important items were mentioned that set the stage for the next few issues after this one. Number one is that Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy are co-CEOs of both Oscorp and Stane/Stark. Now remember, Stane/Stark Tower was destroyed by the Maker's Council, which resulted in thousands being dead and Tony Stark being framed, but the company still remains, and there are so many important pieces of tech and information that needs to be managed at Stane/Stark. But this does explain though why Harry in the last issue was able to deactivate Peter Parker's suit, and will later explain why Harry was targeting Fisk locations in the previous issue as well. We also find out that Ben and Jonah's news company finally has a name, which is ironically called The Paper, considering that much of the world has gone digital. Now, this was a name that was given by MJ, who, as we remember, now has a PR company. She is their active brand manager here for this company. So Gwen, she would like to use some of the income that they have to help fund the paper business, which I am sure has something to do with making sure that more news and information about the attacks on Wilson Fisk get published, considering that Fisk, who owns the Daily Bugle, has been making sure that those kind of stories are staying under wraps. And one additional thing here, which is kind of like the elephant in the room, since both Peter and Harry know who each other are now, Harry wants to be able to team up with Peter Parker so that they could go after the real big bads of the world. Now, Peter, this is funny, has not told MJ here that he is Spider-Man, which is the opposite of Harry. Like, Harry has told Gwen everything, even implying that Gwen probably knows about Peter Parker being Spider-Man as well. So it's kind of funny that like MJ is still kept in the dark. She's the only one that doesn't know here. Now, Harry wants Peter to help him save the world. So the question here is, what does Harry know and what world is he trying to save specifically? So after Norman Osborn died, the company was given to both Harry and Gwen, which was about a 6-month process for them. Now, there was just one more thing that needed to be done before it could actually become official. So Harry had to meet with Wilson Fisk. Now, due to the passing of his father, Norman, and the fall of Stane/Stark Company and the Union itself being divided, Fisk was set to become the governor of New York and the kingpin of Manhattan. Now, because Fisk didn't want anyone remaining from Stane/Stark, like any remnants, to take over the company, Kingpin decided to sell it to Harry Osborn, which is how they got access to the company in the first place and why they're pretty much basically incredibly rich. Now, this leads Harry and Gwen to find out some significant details and secrets of their current world. With the help of Mr. Aldo Octavius, the first thing that they discover are some hidden Iron Man suits, which, although the building has no more power, were still functioning due to an arc reactor. Now, what's discovered next here are really the real gems. There's a system of files that were there, and one file was world history. Now, these files, when you click on them, give you all the information about the maker and the one that created this universe, the one who orchestrated this world in such a way that there were no superheroes that were formed. There were files that were on the council, the Maker's Council, the ones who were leading the world from the shadows. And while Otto was working on developing the Goblin suit for Harry, while using the tech to create bombs and gliders, etc., they were also able to see that Tony Stark was not dead. They were able to see that over 100 new signals were sent essentially overnight, which was during the time when Tony and Doom had gone 6 months into the future and had sent those origin boxes back to the past pretty much basically at once to facilitate creating the superheroes that the Maker had prevented from coming into existence in this universe. Damn, that was a mouthful, guys. Nah, seriously. So one of those boxes, though, by the way, Harry had tracked was tech that the Shocker had actually stolen. So remember, like, Goblin had seen the interaction between Spider-Man and the Shocker in one of the previous issues. Shocker had stated that he was robbing this guy's apartment who must have died. So he put on the tech and then he left the apartment. I am curious, though. It doesn't state like who exactly was in this chair, and I'm kind of curious as to who was actually there. But either way, now Harry knows everything that's been going on, right? The Maker making this universe, the Council, who are basically the Illuminati of this world, but significantly worse. They're the ones that are in power, that have been running everything in this world. They are the ones that Kingpin is reporting to, how they orchestrated the attack on New York that killed thousands of people, including Harry's dad and Harry's mom, that Tony really isn't dead, that the way Peter Parker became Spider-Man is from the origin boxes, and now that they need to go after the real villains of this world, and also that Peter Parker has actual abilities and it's not just a suit that he has on that makes him, you know, pretty much basically a hero. Which then brings us back to what happened after Harry had found out about Spider-Man and Peter Parker had found out about, you know, about Harry here. Now, in the last issue, it said, hey, do you want to go for drinks? So at the time when they went out and got drinks, Harry told Peter that he knew what was going on, that Tony had appeared to Peter out of thin air, telling him that he should be a superhero, which of course Peter confirms is true, at which Harry commends Peter for stepping up to the plate and accepting the mantle. Now remember, from the previous issue, when Goblin had captured Bullseye, we see him here unmasked this time and without a suit. So we found out that this is Lester, that was always beside Kingpin every single time. Turns out that he doesn't actually work for the Kingpin, as he already kind of alluded to us or told us here in the previous issue, but he specifically works here for Captain Britain, the real, you know, sort of leaders of this world. Now, his allegiance to Captain Britain is so deep that he even gouged out his own eye after Captain Britain had lost his. And if you don't know, Captain Britain had lost his eye due to Tony Stark. Now, the Bullseye suit that was also on his body prior to, turns out that the suit was actually an embedded exoskeleton that was under his skin, which took a month to peel off, Goblin mentions. Now, pay attention to that exoskeleton stuff because that is going to come up a little bit later on. So if we step back to Peter and Harry here at the restaurant, Harry mentions to Peter the iconic lines, which I'm not going to lie to you, doesn't hit the same without Uncle Ben saying them, but the truth still stands that with great power comes great responsibility. So what Harry wants Peter to do is step up to the plate and help him to save the world. So we jump to Peter accepting the responsibility on this mission that he goes on here with the Goblin. Now they're patiently waiting outside of a location where Kingpin is. So they're waiting for the right moment to break in. But during that time, they have a little bit of a playful little conversation here. Goblin calls him Peter. Peter is like, bro, don't use my real name on a mission, man. Use a code name or something. To which Goblin says, but we don't have any code names, bro. So Peter mentions to him like, hey, everybody's been calling you the Green Goblin, my guy. To which Harry admits, he's like, you know what? I kind of like that name. Another one of the issues here is that Peter is like, we're breaking into this man's place. I don't want to break the law, man, which is kind of funny because Goblin's like, this is kind of like a necessary evil here, bro. Like, how exactly do you want to do this? Like, go into and knock on the door and say, hi, we're here. Like, this is kind of like a necessary thing to do. So after the chit chat, they finally get going. They swoop down and break the glass to where Kingpin was standing, which doesn't surprise him at all. He lets them know like, hey, I got cameras throughout this entire city. I saw you waiting. I saw you. I knew that you were coming. It was kind of funny because Goblin then says to Peter, see, we were expecting, basically implying it's not really breaking in now since he wanted us to be here, sort of, kind of, right? So Goblin lets Kingpin know that he knows that who he actually really answers to, like someone that is higher than him, right? So then Kingpin is like, how do you know that? So Goblin is like, well, your assassin told me. So Kingpin lets him know, well, he wasn't really my guy anyways. So then right then and there, like Peter Parker's Spidey sense starts to go off, which is the first time that Peter's Spider sense has actually been activated that we've seen throughout all of these 6 issues. The sliding doors, some sliding doors pop out or something like that. Fist throws a table with some bottles at them. Spider-Man like is able to dodge it, but then it knocks down Green Goblin. Now Spidey manages to get some webbing on his face, and then he gets behind him and starts like pulling on his head. But then Kingpin like throws him off and grabs him by the neck and was about to give him like a 2-piece of the biscuit. But Goblin manages to laser beam him in the back. So then Goblin throws a bomb at him, but that crap does nothing but just burn off his clothes. Kingpin is like, yeah, normally that would hurt, but I've recently gone through some self-improvement, you see. It doesn't really affect me anymore. So Kingpin has what looks like an exoskeleton looking suit, like the markings that are on him, like where a suit would probably come out of if that were a thing. So then Kingpin charges directly at Goblin and punches him like dead in the face, cracking his mask. And I mean, Kingpin is just bodying them there with ease, like back and forth, just like throwing them on the ground. You know, Peter Parker gets slammed to the ground a couple times. Like they keep on basically having to save each other, but really it's like, how long are they going to be able to go do this here before like somebody perishes, like somebody dies? So the only thing that saves them is that Goblin had sent this glider, which he uses to kind of like knock Kingpin out, and then he uses it to like get like for them to be able to get on top of him and then to escape the scene. So in the aftermath of this, right, Peter gets home to his family and he has this massive shiner on his face. And I was like, how is this dude about to explain this one? So he tries to lie about it, saying that it was like a work thing, except May Parker kind of slips up and says, Dad, gotta be in a superhero. But before she gets it out, she like freezes a little bit here, which she tries to apologize for it immediately. Like, she's such a sweet little girl, man, I tell you. And to Peter's surprise, like, no one's mad about it. So now they know that he's a superhero, right? But they are definitely concerned. Well, definitely Richard is more so concerned. He's like, listen, Dad, please just be careful. May bragged about it a little bit earlier that she's known for about 4 months, which of course, it's always some competition with kids. Now, as the kids go off to bed, Peter is still expecting MJ to be upset about it, but she just explains that in all honesty, like things actually start to make a lot more sense now that she's kind of thought about it. She's like, she actually says like, I'm actually proud of you. And man, listen, if that was my wife, she would not be saying nothing about she's proud of me. She would be like, I cannot believe that you didn't tell me. You're out here being unsafe. I need to make, that's basically how my wife would have acted. I think both responses are probably legit, either way you want to go. But MJ is like, hey, I like the suit. Oh, can I see the suit? So that he puts on the suit. And of course you can tell like MJ seems to like a man in uniform. Listen, I don't blame her. So she asks a question, what am I supposed to call you in your costume? Which is nuts of her to ask, considering that Harry didn't even offer the same courtesy previously before. And then Peter states that he doesn't know, to which she says, well, isn't it kind of obvious, while touching the suit? And then Peter and MJ, later on, you catch them swinging through New York, which, to be honest with you, like, my thoughts are, bruh, like, aren't you concerned? Kingpin said that he has cameras everywhere. You don't think that he's going to be able to track you down and then find out where you go? I don't know, guys. That's just my thoughts. But either way, this has been an incredible series. Like, probably some of the best comic reading that I've experienced in such a long time here. Issues 1 through 6 are amazing. If you haven't listened to or watched the previous one that I did here on the channel, issues 1 through 3, definitely go check that one out. Like and subscribe here for more on the channel. Join the Discord. And as always, guys, thanks so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.